Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something you might not think about when you're watching a soccer match: global power. We're going to unpack the incredible story behind those spectacular stadiums at the 2023 African Cup of Nations. And trust me, there's a lot more going on than just the game itself.
So right off the bat, you might be asking yourself this exact question. A stadium is for sports, right? Well, yes, but it's also about money, strategy, and influence. The answer connects the roar of a crowd in West Africa all the way to the strategic plans of a superpower in Asia. And in this explainer, we're going to connect those dots.
To really get what's going on, we've got to start on the ground. So let's head to Cote d'Ivoire, the host of the 2024 tournament and the stage for one of the biggest celebrations in African football.
Picture this. It's January 2024, and the energy is just electric. Cote d'Ivoire is throwing a massive party for the entire continent with the AFCON tournament. You can feel the national pride. This was their moment to shine on the world stage.
And at the very heart of it all was this absolute giant, the Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan. I mean, look at that number, 60,000 seats. This thing wasn't just a venue, it was a statement.
Yeah, this was way more than just concrete and steel. It was a powerful symbol of progress, of ambition. It hosted the opening match, and it hosted the final. It was the beginning and the end of the whole story. But how did a stadium like this even get built?
And that question, well, it leads us right to the real force behind its construction. This wasn't just a one-off project. It's part of a very deliberate, very calculated strategy. You could even call it a stadium playbook.
The key concept we need to understand here is something called sports diplomacy. It's basically using sports as a tool, not just for a trophy, but to build friendships, to gain influence, and to push your own country's goals forward on the world stage. And there's one country that has become an absolute master at this, and that country is China. To pull off this world-class event, Cote d'Ivoire went on a massive $1 billion infrastructure spending spree. $1 billion, with a B. And a huge chunk of that financial firepower came from China.
And when you look at where the money came from, you can see it was a really coordinated effort. The Chinese government's development agency kicked in over $40 million for that main stadium. But then, other state-owned groups, like the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, helped finance even more venues across the country. It was a full-court press.
So here's the deal, right? On the surface, it looks like a total win-win. Cote d'Ivoire gets these incredible state-of-the-art stadiums. For China, though, this isn't just about being generous. It's a long-term strategic play to lock in access to valuable resources and to cement its influence across Africa.
And you can literally see the payoff right here in the trade data. Check this out. After the stadium construction got going, exports from Cote d'Ivoire to China absolutely skyrocketed. They jumped from about $100 million to $700 million in just 4 years. The playbook was definitely working.
But, like any deal that seems a little too good to be true, you have to ask, is it really that simple? Critics of these deals see a much riskier side to the story. They ask a pretty pointed question. Is this a genuine boost, or is it a potential debt trap?
This quote from researcher Simon Chadwick really gets to the heart of the concern. He points out that these big infrastructure deals are often tied to other agreements, strategic partnerships that give China special, preferential access to a country's raw materials. We're talking oil and gas, for sure, but also the minerals that power our modern world, like lithium, cobalt, and copper.
And the worries don't stop there. Critics point to a whole bunch of red flags. For one, the exact terms of these stadium deals, they're almost never made public. That secrecy leads to fears about hidden loans with tough conditions, and even accusations of predatory lending. Plus, there's the concern that it's all designed to get African nations to align with Beijing's interests, like its policy on Taiwan.
And if you want a real-world example of how risky this can be, just look at Angola. By 2017, the country owed a staggering $21.5 billion to China. That was half of its entire foreign debt. It's a serious cautionary tale.
So let's just lay it all out, side by side. On the one hand, you have some very real, positive impacts for Cote d'Ivoire. The stadium project employed 1,500 Ivorian workers and created over 1,000 local jobs. Economic activity in the area actually jumped 24%. But then you look at the other side of the ledger. You see the massive risk, like Angola's debt. those secret stadium for minerals deals, and the ballooning debt in other countries like Kenya and Uganda.
Which brings us to our final section. What's the final score here? When the last whistle blows, who really comes out on top in this whole arrangement?
And you know what's wild? In a twist that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, the tournament was a massive success. And the host nation, Cote d'Ivoire, actually won the whole thing. They beat Nigeria in the final. The national pride was just off the charts.
But in the bigger game, the geopolitical one, the victory is a bit more complicated. Sure, Cote d'Ivoire got the trophy, these world-class facilities, and a huge boost in national pride. But China also scored a huge, if quieter, win. It massively increased its soft power, its cultural influence, and deepened its economic roots all across the continent.
And it's so important to see this in the bigger picture. The sources we looked at are clear on this. As the United States has pulled back its aid and its presence in parts of Africa, China is stepping right into that vacuum. And it's using projects just like these stadiums to do it.
Which leaves us with one last, really crucial question. These gleaming new stadiums, they're absolutely symbols of progress. You can't argue with that. But as China's playbook keeps unfolding across Africa, we all have to ask, what is the true price of that progress? Thanks for joining this explainer.